I consider this disloyal, Victoria said, her tone cold as she stared at me from behind her huge mahogany desk. After everything Harbor Point Communications has done for you. I sat across from her, holding my purse tightly just to steady my hands. The shock of being called into her office at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday had faded, replaced by a heavy knot in my stomach as I realized exactly what was going on. Victoria, No, she cut in sharply, tapping a manicured nail against a printed email. Don't bother denying it. I've already confirmed you interviewed with North Bay Solutions last Thursday. You took a half-day that you claimed was for a dental appointment, if I remember correctly. My name is Addison Walker. I'm 31 years old, and I've given 6 years of my career to Harbor Point Communications here in Spokane, Washington. In that time, I tripled my client portfolio, brought in millions in revenue, and earned the trust of our biggest accounts. But apparently, none of that mattered today. Security will meet you at your desk. You may collect your personal items, but your access to the building ends immediately. Victoria slid my company ID across the desk without a hint of emotion. Your email has already been shut off. The unfairness of it all stung. For 3 straight years, I walked into this same office with carefully prepared presentations showing my results, industry salary comparisons, and a reasonable request for a raise. And for 3 years, I heard the same excuse about tight budgets, while Victoria announced record profits at every quarterly meeting. I took a breath, stood up, and straightened my blazer. I understand. Victoria looked almost let down by how calm I was. Maybe she expected me to cry or beg. Instead, I reached out my hand. I wish you and Harbor Point continued success, I said, keeping my voice steady even though I felt everything but calm inside. She hesitated, then gave my hand a quick shake, confusion flickering across her face. A security guard hovered near my desk while I packed up my family photos and the desk plants I'd cared for over 6 years. Oddly enough, I felt peaceful. Co-workers glanced at me with concern, but I gave them small smiles to show I was okay. No drama. No scenes. Just dignity. When I stepped through those glass doors for the last time, the warm April sun hit my face, and something became crystal clear. Victoria thought she was punishing me. She had no idea what she had actually done. As I closed my car trunk with my cardboard box inside, my phone buzzed. A message from David Clean, CEO of North Bay Solutions. Can we move our final discussion to today, 2 p.m.? I couldn't stop smiling. Victoria didn't know what was coming. It's strange how 6 years of your life can fit into a single cardboard box. Driving home with it in my trunk, I thought about my entire journey. I joined Harbor Point right after graduate school, excited and determined. Even with a marketing degree from Washington State University, I started at the very bottom, fetching coffee and taking meeting notes. But I worked hard. I stayed late. I volunteered for every difficult project. I built relationships with clients others avoided, the ones labeled too demanding. Within 2 years, I was handling mid-tier accounts. By year 4, I took over North Bay Solutions, the company's biggest account, responsible for nearly 30% of our yearly revenue. David Clean personally asked for me after I stepped in during a crisis caused by another representative. You're the only one who understands what we need before we even say it, he told me. And from that moment, our partnership only grew stronger. North Bay renewed their contract and doubled their marketing budget with us. Victoria had loved me then. This is the kind of initiative we value, Victoria had told me back then, though somehow that value never showed up in my paycheck. My first request for a raise happened right after that success. I went in fully prepared, armed with performance numbers and revenue data that made the case for me. It's just not in the budget this year, Victoria said, wearing the same practiced expression she used whenever delivering bad news. But your contribution is noted. I accepted it at the time. The economy was shaky, and I was still building my client list. But the next year, after I landed 3 major new clients and earned an industry award for one of my campaigns, the response didn't change. "Next year will be better," she promised. "We just need to tighten our belts a little longer." Meanwhile, Victoria rolled into the office in a brand new luxury SUV, and the company leased an entire additional floor for expansion. Still, I stayed committed, convinced that patience and loyalty would eventually pay off. The third denial came 6 months ago, right after I negotiated a 40% increase in North Bay's annual contract. "Your performance is exceptional," Victoria told me. "But we're investing in infrastructure this year. Perhaps we can revisit this in the summer." That was the moment something inside me finally cracked. That night, I updated my resume for the first time in 6 years, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. I was tired of empty promises and constant dismissal. I deserved more. I just never expected Victoria to discover my job search before I had the chance to resign properly. When I got home, I placed the cardboard box on my kitchen counter and stared at it. The reality hit all at once. I wasn't stepping out for a meeting or taking a mental health day. I was unemployed. The weight of that realization pressed against my chest, making it hard to breathe for a moment. My phone rang. It was my best friend, Olivia. "I just heard," she blurted the second I answered. "Thomas texted me. Are you okay?" Thomas worked in IT at Harbor Point and was Olivia's boyfriend. News spread quickly over there. "I'm still processing," I said honestly, sinking onto a kitchen stool. "It all happened so fast." "It's completely unfair," Olivia said, her voice full of outrage. "Everyone knows you're the reason North Bay has stayed with Harbor Point this long. Victoria is just threatened because you're better at the job than she ever was." There was some truth to that. Before she became a manager, Victoria was Harbor Point's top account executive. Many of us suspected she missed the recognition. She often inserted herself into my North Bay meetings even when it wasn't necessary. "The worst part is how she handled it," I said, feeling a rush of anger. "She acted like I committed some kind of betrayal by exploring other options after being passed over for 3 straight years." "It's her loss," Olivia said firmly. "And honestly, Addison, maybe this is the best thing that could have happened. You've been undervalued there for years." She was right, of course. I stayed at Harbor Point because I cared deeply about my clients and coworkers, not because it was truly the best move for my career. But being fired like that, escorted out by security as if I'd done something wrong, hurt more than I wanted to admit. My phone beeped with an incoming call. "David Clean." "Olivia, I have to take this, it's North Bay." "Go," she said quickly. "Call me after." I took a steadying breath and answered. "Addison, I just heard what happened at Harbor Point," David said, skipping past small talk. "Are you able to come in today? I'd like to speed things up." My heart pounded. "Yes, I can be there at 2 p.m., as you suggested." "Excellent. And Addison, don't let this morning rattle you. Sometimes these situations open unexpected doors." After the call ended, I looked at my reflection in the kitchen window. The woman staring back at me didn't look broken. She looked like someone who had just been released. I showered, got dressed, and put on my best suit, the one I usually saved for important client pitches. As I finished my makeup, a surprising sense of calm washed over me. Victoria may have thought firing me so abruptly was punishment, but in a strange way, she might have done me a favor. That morning had been embarrassing, yes, but it also brought clarity. I had poured loyalty, creativity, and countless unpaid hours into Harbor Point. In return, I was overlooked and tossed aside when it suited them. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for sure: I would never again give my best to people who couldn't recognize my value. It was time to take control of my future. North Bay Solutions occupied the top 3 floors of a sleek, glass tower in downtown Spokane. Compared to Harbor Point's dull beige walls and outdated furniture, North Bay felt like another world: modern design, open layouts, creative collaboration areas, and wide windows showing off incredible mountain views. As the elevator carried me to the 30th floor, I mentally prepared what I'd say. I needed to explain why I was suddenly available without sounding resentful about Harbor Point. Staying professional mattered, even when the truth was uncomfortable. When the doors opened, David Clean was waiting right there in the reception area. "Addison," he said warmly, offering his hand. "Thank you for coming on such short notice." David was in his early 50s, with salt and pepper hair and a reputation for being both smart and fair, qualities I'd grown to respect during the 3 years we'd worked together. "I appreciate the flexibility," I replied, shaking his hand firmly. "It's been an unexpected day." "Let's talk in my office," he said, guiding me through the busy workspace. Several employees I'd worked with on projects smiled or waved as we passed. David's corner office was simple compared to Victoria's dramatic setup, but far more inviting. It was arranged for conversation, not intimidation. "Coffee?" he offered. "Yes, please." Once we sat down with our cups, he got right to it. "I received a call from Victoria Sanders this morning," he said. "She told me you would no longer be managing the North Bay account and that she would personally handle things until a replacement is chosen." I kept my face calm, though irritation flickered inside me. Of course Victoria would try to keep the company's biggest client under her control. "What she doesn't know," David continued, "is that we were already concerned about our partnership with Harbor Point." That caught me off guard. Concerned? The latest campaign results were up by 23%. "The results were excellent," he agreed. "Because of you. But we've noticed other issues, slow responses, inconsistent quality from anyone besides you, and honestly, a sense that Harbor Point has become complacent." He set his mug down and leaned forward. 3 months ago, our board suggested we begin exploring other agencies. I held off because of our relationship with you. You consistently understand our needs in a way that goes beyond a standard client-agency dynamic. My heart raced. Was he saying what I thought he was saying? "When you reached out about opportunities here," David said, "the timing felt perfect. But I want to be clear, we were never planning to lure you away. We respect professional boundaries. We were prepared to wait until you officially resigned from Harbor Point." "I was going to give 2 weeks' notice," I said softly. "Once I had a firm offer." He nodded. "I believe that. Your professionalism is one of the reasons we're having this discussion. Victoria's actions this morning simply sped things up." He opened a folder and slid a document toward me. "This isn't an interview, Addison. This is a job offer. Director of Client Strategy. You would build and lead a full team to oversee all of our external marketing partners and agency relationships." I looked down, and my breath caught. The salary listed was nearly double what I earned at Harbor Point. More than I had even requested during my most recent rejected raise conversation. "This is incredibly generous," I said. "It's the market rate for someone with your expertise and proven success," David replied. "Sometimes it takes stepping away from a situation to see your true value." That night, the offer letter sat on my kitchen table, signed and ready to return the next morning. I had asked David for the evening to review everything, although we both knew my answer was going to be yes. Still, taking time to think things through was a professional courtesy I always gave, even when the decision felt obvious. My phone buzzed nonstop all afternoon with messages from former coworkers at Harbor Point. News of my firing spread quickly, and so did rumors about my meeting at North Bay. I replied to a few close friends but avoided getting pulled into office gossip. A message from Thomas popped up. "Victoria called an emergency meeting after you left. Told everyone you were fired for breach of company loyalty, and reminded us that Harbor Point rewards loyalty above all." The irony wasn't lost on anyone. I shook my head. Victoria was trying hard to make an example out of me, but based on Thomas's message, her tactic might be backfiring. Just then, another text arrived, This one from Jessica, our receptionist. She's been locked in her office making calls all afternoon. Looks stressed. Guess someone's worried about North Bay. I didn't reply. There was no satisfaction in knowing Victoria was spiraling. If anything, it only reinforced that I'd made the right choice by looking for opportunities elsewhere. A company that demanded loyalty but gave none in return was no longer a place I wanted to belong. My phone rang, an unknown number. Curious, I picked up. Addison Walker? Speaking. This is Elaine Winters. I'm a member of the board at Harbor Point Communications. My stomach tightened. Board members didn't typically reach out about individual employee issues. I understand there was an incident today regarding your employment, she continued. I'd like to meet with you tomorrow to discuss it. It appears Victoria may have been hasty in her decision. There it was. Victoria had fired her most valuable account manager without approval, and now that North Bay might be reconsidering their partnership, the board was scrambling. I appreciate the call, Ms. Winters, but I've already accepted another position, I said, keeping my tone polite but firm. There was a pause. May I ask where? I don't think it would be appropriate to share that right now. Another, longer pause. Addison, if this is about compensation, we're more than willing to revisit that discussion. The board values your contribution to Harbor Point. The irony was almost laughable. After 3 years of carefully documented, repeatedly denied raise requests, now, suddenly, they valued my contribution. It's not just about compensation, I said honestly. It's about respect, and the importance of recognizing employee value before they're pushed to a breaking point. Perhaps we should discuss this in person, she pressed. Tomorrow morning. I considered it. I had zero intention of ever returning to Harbor Point, but a professional conversation could bring closure. And maybe it would help the co-workers I cared about. I can meet at 9 a.m., I agreed. But just to be clear, I've already signed an employment contract elsewhere. I'm not coming to negotiate a return. Understood, Elaine said, though her tone suggested otherwise. I'll see you tomorrow. After the call ended, I poured a glass of wine and stepped onto my balcony. The spring air was cool but pleasant, and the city lights were starting to glow as evening settled in. Tomorrow would bring a conversation I hadn't expected to have, but maybe it was necessary. A chance to explain what went wrong at Harbor Point, not just for my own closure, but as feedback that might protect those still there. My phone buzzed. An email from David Clean. Subject line: Welcome to the team. Whatever happened tomorrow, one thing was certain, there was no going back. Walking into the Harbor Point reception area the next morning as a visitor felt surreal. Jessica's eyes widened when she saw me, her usual polished smile faltering. Addison, you're here for the meeting with Ms. Winters? That's right, I said, signing the visitor log. I'll let her know you've arrived, she said, then lowered her voice. For what it's worth, everyone's talking about how wrong this was. You were the best of us. Her words warmed me. Thank you, Jessica. The elevator ride up gave me a moment to center myself. I'd chosen a navy suit, not to impress them, but to remind myself that I was walking into this room as an equal. Not a discarded employee seeking pity, but a professional in control of her future. Elaine Winters was already seated in the conference room when I entered, a slim folder in front of her. In her 60s, with neatly cut silver hair, she carried herself with the calm authority of someone who made million-dollar decisions before most people finished their first coffee. Ms. Walker, thank you for coming, she said, rising to shake my hand. Please sit. I noticed Victoria wasn't there. When Elaine closed the door, it was clear this would be a private meeting. I've reviewed your personnel file, Elaine began, opening the folder. 6 years of outstanding performance reviews, steady growth in your account portfolio, and 3 formal requests for salary adjustments. All denied. She looked up at me. I was not aware of this pattern. That surprised me. I had assumed compensation decisions went to the board. Major compensation changes do, she explained. But management has certain levels of authority. Victoria has been operating with significant autonomy. I nodded. I understand. What I don't understand, she continued, is the lack of documentation supporting your termination. There is no policy that prohibits employees from interviewing elsewhere. I kept my voice calm. The word used was disloyal. Elaine raised an eyebrow. An interesting choice, given the circumstances. She closed the folder. Ms. Walker, I'll be direct. The board would like to offer you reinstatement, with the compensation increase you last requested, plus an additional 10%, along with the title of Senior Account Director. It was more than Victoria had ever been willing to consider, but it was also 3 years and one humiliating firing too late. That's a generous offer, I said. But as I mentioned on the phone, I've already accepted another position. At North Bay Solutions, Elaine said, not a question, but a statement. I neither confirmed nor denied it, maintaining professional boundaries. My new role started on Monday, and Elaine could see it in my expression. She watched me for a moment before speaking again. Victoria is worried North Bay may rethink their partnership with Harbor Point because you're leaving, she said. And just like that, the real motivation behind this meeting became obvious. This wasn't about correcting a bad decision or acknowledging how I'd been treated. It was about protecting a major client. Losing me didn't concern them, losing North Bay did. That would be something for North Bay to decide, I replied calmly. Of course, Elaine said with a small nod, clearly appreciative that I wasn't saying more than necessary. She paused, then added, one last question if you don't mind. What could Harbor Point have done differently to keep you? I hadn't expected that, but I welcomed the opportunity. I took a moment before answering. They could have recognized my value before I had to look somewhere else to find it, I said honestly. Loyalty isn't one-sided, Ms. Winters. Harbor Point expected complete commitment from me while showing, repeatedly, that I wasn't worth investing in. Eventually, that imbalance becomes impossible to ignore. Elaine listened closely, then gave a slow, understanding nod. That's fair, she said. She stood and offered her hand. Thank you for your candor, Addison. Whatever path you're following next, I wish you well. Walking out of Harbor Point for the second and final time, I felt lighter than I had in years. This conversation wasn't about trying to win me back. It was about giving me the chance to walk away with clarity, dignity, and my professional reputation intact. In its own way, it was unexpected closure. Monday morning arrived with a mix of excitement and nerves. My first day at North Bay Solutions had finally come, marking the beginning of a completely new chapter. I got to the office early, eager to settle into my new workspace, a real office with a door and windows, unlike the tiny cubicle I'd been crammed into at Harbor Point, even as a senior team member. David had everything set up, technology, supplies, even a small welcome basket. At 9 a.m., he stopped by to introduce me to the team, 5 skilled marketing specialists who would now report to me. Together, we would handle all of North Bay's agency partnerships. The irony wasn't lost on me. I went from managing a single account to overseeing every marketing relationship, including whichever agency would now manage the Harbor Point account. Team, this is Addison Walker, our new Director of Client Strategy, David announced. Many of you already know her from the outstanding work she did at Harbor Point Communications. We're lucky to have her with us. After introductions and a short meeting to outline priorities, David asked me to join him in the conference room. Inside, several members of North Bay's executive team were already gathered. Before you jump fully into your new role, David explained, we want your perspective on something important. The CFO spoke first. Given the recent changes, we're reassessing our partnership with Harbor Communications. Their contract is up for renewal next month. The Chief Marketing Officer added, You know our expectations better than anyone, and you have direct experience with Harbor Point. We'd like to hear your thoughts. I had the perfect opportunity to recommend ending the partnership. It would have been easy, clean, even justified. A neat professional consequence for Victoria's behavior. Ending that contract would hit Harbor Point hard, and no one would question the decision. But that wasn't the kind of professional I wanted to be. Revenge is temporary. Integrity lasts longer. I think Harbor Point should be evaluated using the same criteria we use for every other agency, I said carefully. Their work has been strong, but the consistency of their service and the quality of their account management should be central to the decision. Later, on Wednesday at 11 a.m., exactly 1 week after Victoria had fired me, the email went out. It wasn't planned that way. It just happened to be when the executive team finished reviewing proposals from the 3 competing agencies. David gave me the chance to read the message before it was sent, even though I stayed out of the final vote to avoid any hint of bias or impropriety. The email was short, formal, and impossible to misunderstand. After careful consideration of our marketing needs moving forward, North Bay Solutions has decided to transition our account to Meridian Creative, effective immediately. This decision reflects our evolving brand strategy and digital requirements. Addison Walker, our new Director of Client Strategy, will oversee the transition and will serve as your point of contact. We appreciate our partnership and request that all materials be transferred by end of business Friday. I could picture the moment Victoria opened it, the shock, the confusion, and then the slow realization of everything that had unfolded. She hadn't just lost me, she had now lost North Bay, a client that made up nearly 30% of Harbor Point's yearly revenue. And to add to it, I would be the one directing the entire transition. It was, in every sense, perfect professional revenge, except I hadn't planned a single part of it. I didn't badmouth anyone. I didn't interfere behind the scenes. I didn't need to. Harbor Point's own behavior, exposed by my departure, spoke louder than anything I could have said. Later that afternoon, a LinkedIn request from Jessica, the receptionist at Harbor Point, popped up, followed by a private message. The office is chaos. Victoria's been in emergency meetings all day. 3 other account managers have updated their resumes. Karma works fast. I didn't respond right away. There was no need to comment or involve myself in Harbor Point's internal collapse. My focus was on my new team, setting up efficient workflows, and building something meaningful. In the end, success truly was the most effective form of revenge. Still, I eventually accepted Jessica's request and sent a simple reply. Thank you for your kindness during my time at Harbor Point. Wishing you all the best. Taking the high road felt unexpectedly empowering. My new role at North Bay came with challenges and opportunities one never would have encountered had I stayed at Harbor Point, waiting endlessly for the recognition I deserved. That chapter had taught me something important. Sometimes revenge isn't something you chase. Sometimes it happens naturally when you finally choose to value yourself in ways others refuse to. Looking back a year later, I understood something I hadn't seen at the time. Victoria had actually given me a gift. Her decision, careless and unprofessional as it was, pushed me toward discovering my true worth. In searching for revenge, I found something far more meaningful: self-respect and the courage to step into the success I'd earned.